Hey, beautiful people, Gene Williams here, and welcome to Unbreakable Souls, episode 13. Wow, we are, man, we've been on this for a minute. All right, so I can't do this without my brother, Coach G, Gary Newsom. Come on to the building, brother.
What's up?
What it do, what it
What's
do?
up? What's up? What's
Good
up,
eye
my
night,
man? Good
top of
eye
the morning
night.
to you.
Top of the morning in the afternoon to you lot. What's up, bro?
Man.
Mark wanted voiceovers, man. We can pull them out, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say we need to do that, like just for fun.
Yeah,
Do a voiceover of our voices in a funny voice.
yeah, that'd be
Say the
funny.
same stuff.
Yeah. Well, what's up, man? How you doing? You have a good week?
Man, the week has been crazy, but mostly I'm in a good place now. How about you?
Yeah, man. It's been a productive week.
Yeah.
I'd say mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically for me. So
Right. Awesome.
I got back up this week.
Yeah.
Coach G got up this week, man.
There you go. There you go.
So
Yep.
I'm excited.
Yes, sir. Yep. That's the warrior lifestyle, man. You get knocked down, you gotta get back up, regardless of what's going on. So
Yeah.
I'm you for that.
Thank you, man.
A lot of people be like, I don't want to get up no more, and just lay there and let life trample over you. So that's a big move.
Well, it's funny that so I'll just break us right in. Unbreakable Souls, we're at episode 13. Today is self-inflicted trauma. And before we even get started in that, bro, I mean, what we just talked about was one of my self-inflicted traumas.
Yeah.
That, I just have been in a fog for these last couple months. Coming out of the holidays, you know my story, but the losses that I went through. So the holidays were hard for me. So coming out of that, man, I just been in this depression, this sadness, this darkness, this cloud, and just gained weight and, just had some mental fatigue and fog. But man, I got up this week, I got back to walking my 10,000 steps, man. I got my push-ups and stuff in, and I'm trying to get myself ready to get back in the gym. So
Yeah, right. There we go. Exactly. Moving weight. You're moving weight in your spiritual, emotional, mental life. Now it's time to go lift some physical weight. So
yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah. So you ready to jump in this one, man? This is another tough one because I know we relate to this because both of us have had some of these points that we're going to reference today. So
right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the first one is suicidal behavior. Self-inflicted trauma can manifest in suicidal thoughts and attempts among men. This may be influenced by various factors such as mental health conditions, relationship issues, financial stress, and social isolation. Now, if I do remember the statistics that we pulled up a few shows back, it was like men are 75 to 80% of the population across the world, committing suicide.
yeah. Yeah. I think it was 70% and then as high as like 85% of that in the United States.
Right.
So you're right, worldwide of 70%, which is a staggering number.
Right.
And then that number goes up even more significantly in the US.
Right. Yep. In the land of excess and great picture fronts, but inside they're hollow. Was it inside those filthy rags?
Right. Yeah. But I think us as men, when I think about my story, the journey of a warrior, when it comes to suicidal behavior, starting, because, here I am, man of God, business owner, multi-business owner, married, 30 plus years, 3 adult sons, they're about to start their lives and stuff like that. And, I'm at the apex, you would think money's flowing, all these great things. And just hit a block in my life, man. And it all turned, the trauma of my life that I had spent my entire life suppressing. We've talked about on other shows. Actually, we'll talk about a little bit today, but then just all spilled out. And then when my dad died in, what was that, 2018, the dam broke for me and all that came out. And it just left me in a place where I felt like I was so dark. It felt like my only way out was that, I thought about even my marriage, that I was more afraid. Now, I've been thinking on this the last couple of weeks since I met with my son. Remember, I talked about meeting my
Right,
son
right,
a couple of
right.
weeks ago, and one of the questions he asked me was like, "What happened in the marriage with you and mom?" And, we didn't want to go back into the weeds, but dude, that I was unhappy to a point that I was more afraid of the stigma of the church and my position in church, and being ostracized and demonized. A man walking around with leprosy, facing that had I gotten a divorce. So my only other option was suicide. When I
Wow.
reflect back now on that, how crazy was that of a thought process?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you hurt yourself, That's the first person,
Yeah. People's thoughts and opinions of me weighed more heavily on me than my life.
man. Right.
So when I, reflected this week, man, as I was, like I said, I got up. Things like that I've kind of chewed on all week, and I'm just like, because I had all of this, what you talked about, the factors. I had the mental health issues, I had relationship issues, financial stress, the social isolation. I started pulling away to myself and just put myself in a dark space and fell deeper and deeper into that cave each week. And that's where I was at.
Right.
That's where I was at. That my only way out was this suicide.
Right.
So
Man. Well, I'm definitely glad you made it to the other side of that, brother.
yeah, yeah.
And I've been there as well. You know, suicidal thoughts for sure. Uh, you know, after during the relationship, the last one, and then after the process of having my children taken away from me, um, alienated.
Mm-hmm.
That process, like, yeah, I was like, if I can have them, I don't want to be here. Like, they were everything. They were the reason why I worked as hard as I did. And took care of myself because I wanted to create something for them. Basically create break generational curses and build generational wealth. Having our own businesses that we could pass on.
Right, right.
That information and just that knowledge and seeing your father build something from the ground. You know. So yeah, after that it was like I just didn't care. Like it was the bottle. I was just
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
I feel that,
Fellas,
man.
I've had a question for y'all because I never had that. I think I'm too afraid of not knowing what the end journey is or what is on the other side to go down that path. Not saying that I don't have friends that haven't gone down that path and everything, but I'd be lying to my two brothers if I didn't say that I haven't
Hmm.
been down the pity party lane and everything. So I was wondering if y'all thoughts about that because I do know that sometimes if you're in a bad relationship or you get out of a relationship, you might not have those suicidal thoughts, but you'll have the pity party, and sometimes you'll even drown yourself in bad habits, whether that is a drink or whether that's an overindulgence in some fast food or some overindulgence in some activities, including some of the things on TV and things along those lines. So I just wanted y'all's take on people that maybe don't have that suicidal ideation and everything, but they are willing to fall into a pity party. Because I'd be lying to you, brothers, if I didn't tell you
Right,
that I hadn't had pity parties. I'm just too afraid of knowing or not knowing what's on the other side.
right, right. I got you.
You want
Definitely.
to jump?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
was gonna
jump
say.
into it first.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So the biggest thing, from what you're saying, it sounds like you're talking about a depression.
Yeah,
Hmm.
You slip into a
definitely.
depression, which is normal. You
Yeah.
just something in your life just changed drastically. So it's natural to go into, even a small depression, uh,
Mhm.
just to process and unpack everything that transpired in that relationship and who you are now
Right.
post that relationship. So yeah, it's totally normal. So I think everyone does that on both
Hmm.
sides, male and female.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, my take to your point, Mark, it's to me, it's one of the first steps.
Mhm.
to suicidal ideations. I mean, if anything, it's the foundation. That's where it starts, and everything is built from that. And even when you try to pull yourself out of the suicidal thought process, where do you land? You
Right.
land on the foundation of that self-loathing
Hmm.
that you've built. So you try to pull yourself out, but when you land, you just land in dirty waters or muddy, a murky way. So um, the whole system of that behavior and thought process has to be broken.
And
So
in that same space, I guess one of the things I would say, and I don't know y'all thoughts about that, is that sometimes people aren't as, and I don't want to use this term, but I guess I will use it, as brazen as to get the pills or to get the gun or to get whatever weapon that they're going to use to take themselves out of this planet and everything. But sometimes you can create habits that get you into situations that can cause you to be taken out, even if you're not trying to be taken out and everything.
yeah,
Because I do know that sometimes that can happen as well.
Gee, you mind speaking to that, brother?
yeah,
If you don't mind.
no, I mean, because that's actually point number two
Mhm.
is substance abuse. I mean, may engage in self-destructive behavior, such
Mhm.
as what you just talked about, excessive alcohol or drugs as a way to cope with the
Mhm.
emotional pain or the trauma, that they're experiencing. I mean, substance abuse can lead to severe physical, mental, and emotional harm. What you're just talking about, Gene, to your point, that in me just trying to numb myself from pain or from a trauma, um, inflicting harm to myself to a level I wasn't even expecting physically, mentally, and emotionally because I've gone too far using that substance. I started out drinking, me personally, I started out drinking to numb my pain in that moment. That numbing, once I realized that that was a method that I could use to numb myself, now I had to numb myself, well, not once or twice a day, but now all day, and now several days, now all week, now all month, now several months. It just
Right.
it just spirals out of control. And before you know it, so like for me, when I scaled down the drinking, I went through what's it called?
Withdrawal.
Yeah,
Well, step broken?
alcohol withdrawal syndrome. There it
Yeah.
is. So I was shaking, I was sweating, I had uh daydreams.
Mhm.
They were like violent daydreams. I had night terrors. My blood pressure was crazy high. So I was just like not much different than, a drug addict that's
Mhm.
in withdrawal. So my body had consumed so much alcohol so fast in such a short period of time that when I stopped that cold turkey, it rejected it. My body went crazy. My mind went crazy.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And this may be one of the points y'all had and everything, but one of the other things, and I've said it on this show, I'll say it again, is that sometimes you can also become addicted to a type, and sometimes the types are not good for you as well. So that can be a form
Right.
of addiction as well. So I just wondered if y'all could speak to that for our folks that are listening, because sometimes you know that the folks that you are being attracted to are toxic, but you can also get enthralled by that toxicity and everything, and you find yourselves fall into the same type of toxic women over and over again. And I know that that's happened to me on occasion as well. So I just wondered if you could speak to that also, because you know that, it's like knowing that a certain food, if you are allergic to it, is bad for you, but then you still go out there
Really?
and get that
Look.
food, even though it's bad for you and all in that space. And I know that probably all three of us have been down that path at one time or another. So I just wondered if y'all could speak to that, kind of falling into the trap of getting into toxic relationships.
Yeah. Okay.
go ahead, Gene, on that one,
Right.
but I'll rebuttal after you finish.
I was gonna say, yeah. So I've experienced that. You knowing that like this is never going to change, but because it's the norm, you just allow it to go on. And for me, it was a great portion of my life. Where it's going to be those ups and downs. It's going to be a lot of down. It's going to be those few ups, and then when the bass drops, it's deep.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's like it's deep down in deepest part of the sea. And yeah, and it's just, it's my God, it's exhausting because you never know, when the other shoe will drop, and then just constantly going back to that, knowing that the person is not looking to get help. Um, yeah, it's just crazy. And so I haven't done it with a lot of relationships like that. I got married young, so
I got married young as well, and I would say from in studies of relationships, in a lot of cases, men date and or marry their mother. Women
yes,
date and or marry their
right,
father, and if there's no father in the home or no mother in the home, then that's where some dysfunction obviously starts.
right,
But when I reflect back, think about what I just said, but when I reflect back on my life, a lot of the women weren't like my mother. So there was that disconnect. I think the trauma of my father skewed that relationship so much, even with my mother, which I had a great relationship with, that um, I fell into a space of being who I am, the healer.
Mhm.
That I draw energy that the broken people are drawn to me,
right,
and I I didn't learn until really recently my role in that I'm not the fixer. I can't fix you. I can't heal you. I can't
right,
save you.
right,
Um so that was always my draw, and not understanding that there had to be a line there that, hey, I can be your friend, I can be your support, I can be your coach, your brother, your strong person, whatever, but that didn't have to move over into a romantic space. So I've had to learn that the hard way, that I've always felt like those connections with women were connections romantically, and they're not. That's one of my giftings, is people are drawn to me. But
Mhm.
right,
learning to understand that there has to be this line or barrier that I help you in this capacity, and then I have to hold you here, because that's not my romantic relationship. That's just like more my ministerial type relationship.
right,
So
Yeah, and that same line, Gene and Coach, I know that sometimes, and I know that I'm not the only one guilty of this, that both of you or one of you earlier mentioned Jesus Christ earlier and everything, and except for Jesus, there are very few perfect people out there and everything, and we all have our flaws and our faults and all along those lines. But I do know that a number of times in relationships, we are looking for that perfect person, that perfect woman, and I would say women are sometimes looking for that perfect guy, even though we know that there is a flaw to start from the jump street and everything, because we all have our faults and everything. But I remember, I'll just be honest, there was a young lady, she went off and got married, and this was during the time that the Michael Peterson case was going on. So we're talking 20 years ago. And I remember that it was literally a mole on her face that was the factor that was one of the factors that got me away from her as a relationship partner, because I couldn't get past that and everything. I'm going like, wait a minute. In hindsight, that was very superficial and all on those lines. Because she was an incredibly smart woman and had some other very good factors, but that little superficial thing is what was throwing me off. And I think that a lot of times we get caught up in the superficial, looking for that Hollywood or that movie star or even that music kind of background. But as you know, Jane, and I know, a lot of those people got their faults as well. We see the airbrushed version, but not the
right, right.
real version and everything.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's beautiful to have someone who's, like a Hollywood beauty, but it's better to have someone that like feeds your soul.
Come
Mm,
on.
that's it.
Come on, because the word tells us that beauty is fleeting,
Hmm.
Right, right,
meaning that it's not if and or it's going to
right,
flee
Right,
and disappear. So if your relationship is built on the outside
right,
substance,
right,
then you're already setting yourself. Your house is on sand. It's the
right.
foundation of sand. So as soon as that first wave comes, that relationship's falling.
right.
Hmm.
Yep.
But how many of us do that, man? I mean, we do that all the
Look,
time.
Hmm.
look for quality. Yeah, like with relationships, your food, and everything. Look for quality.
Right.
Look for someone that you can be with long term. We life is a constant change. Even the universe itself is constantly changing, evolving to a better version of itself. So and that's the goal for us. And I mean, and you have to be with people who help you do that.
Right.
You get that environment for you. If you don't have that, like you shortchanging yourself, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me at 53, it's all about peace. I want someone that I can spend time with, quality time with, in peace.
Right.
You know, that's my safe place. I don't know if you remember. I mean, do you
Bro.
remember when we did our roundtable and Evie was here, and she talked about that's the place of safe tears. You know, especially as a black or brown man, you go to war every day.
Every day.
24/7, 365. And the last place you want to come home to is another war, another battle. So having that woman that is a safe place for you to let your guard down and be yourself and let your feelings, you know, the women talk about, I want to see his softer side, but can men ever show the softer side? Is that a safe place for them to show the softer side? So for me, a place of peace, man, a woman that I can spend time with and have intellectual conversations and, you know, feel her spiritually and be romantic and things like that. Beauty is great because I'm thinking about all the women I've dated, and it hasn't been a lot of women since I've been divorced. You know, I could probably name them on, you know, my hands, but they were all fine. But I've just learned that's not the goal. That's not the end game. So
right, the substance, the substance.
Right. The substance.
Right.
The substance. And you say it with such great intensity, my son.
Gotta have that substance. Gotta be able to deal with that.
It's that sauce. It's that sauce. The sauce pulls it together.
It's the secret sauce, man.
Right. It's the sauce that pulls it together. Mwah.
Mwah.
Looking for that secret sauce.
You know, and every man has their own secret sauce. I mean, we've articulated our secret sauce, but it just, you know, every man has to clear the space of suicidal thoughts, clear the space of substance abuse, and really figure out, once you have some clarity here, once you clear those two things and your mind is clear, what is it that I want, you know, in a partner? You know, what are my non-negotiables? How many men do that? Right. We dive so quickly into the physical and write off our non-negotiables. We might go into in a mental thought process of, these are my non-negotiables. I don't want this in a woman. And because she's fine, or great Coca-Cola bottle, whatever you're looking for, we negate the non-negotiables. And then you're 3 months in the relationship, like, what the heck?
Either that or though we sometimes prioritize the non-negotiables. I don't know that you can really prioritize them, but let's just say that you want somebody that is, I'm just going to use this as an example. I'm not saying that this is what I've been looking for, but you want a cook and somebody that is cultured and somebody that, let's just say, likes sports and likes to go to football games. And there's not even a football team here and everything, but let's just say that's what you wanted and everything. But you find the person that is the great cook but can't stand going to an art show and doesn't even know what the heck the Kansas City Chiefs are and everything. But you're like so big into it that you are so glad that she's a cook that you let that other two non-negotiables go past and everything. You're like, well, she's going to feed me so well that I don't care about the other one. So that's what I meant when I said sometimes we prioritize and we should really be looking at the entirety of the picture.
Yeah.
I think the first question we should ask ourselves, though, is who are we? You know what I mean? Before we even go towards a relationship, we should know who we are and what's going to build us up. You know, like we get caught up on these things that are. I mean, I know you were joking, but you know, like we literally base our relationship priorities or life partner priorities on stuff that you know is fleeting. You know,
come on.
Yeah, on stuff that's fleeting, and at the end of the day, it's like, again, how are we going to grow together? How can we grow together? Can you teach me? Can you challenge me? You know, I'm gonna give this to my girlfriend right now. Those 100 burpees that we did before this, I try to punk out. She was like, "Well, I'm gonna do it because that's what I said I'm gonna do." And I'm like, "Okay, I can't let her outdo me." So I did it, you know. And we both beat our time, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we need people who it's beyond, you know, their physicality. It's like, how do they make you better? You know, every moment counts. We only, in this physical world, we have a short time. So it's like we have to maximize on the time that we have with the people who are going to help us maximize our power.
Yeah. Well, I got to shout out to Evie again, man. As you're
Yes.
talking, as you were talking, and people, we are on track because if everybody's like, you know, I thought we was talking about self-inflicted trauma, but when it comes to
So,
men, these are things that lead us into substance abuse and suicidal behavior. So we are right on track. But I have to shout out to Evie again because remember she talked about the kingmaker. You know, finding she stays on me all the time. She's such a great friend for me about finding a kingmaker. And you know that what you just said so well articulated, Gene, was finding that person that will push you and you are a better man because that woman is in your life. So not that one that's going to complain about the things that you said you want to do, but the one that's going to hold you accountable and be like, hey baby, you said you were going to do those 100 burpees. What your girl just did. You know what? I'm going to do the burpees with or without you, but I would be better if you did them with me. We agreed that we do this together, but I'm going to do them without you if you don't, you know, which she knew, her
She knew that
knowing
was
you, she
tell
knew that
her.
was going to pull on you.
Right.
So that was
Tell
intelligent.
her.
That was her way of knowing her man.
Right.
Speaking of self-inflicted,
I love the reverse psychology in that instance.
Come
reverse
on.
psychology ain't no joke. That's what a lot of people use. But speaking of reverse psychology and self-inflicted trauma, how often do we have self-inflicted trauma because we are so much wanting to appease those in our families and in our structures? Because I think some of the self-inflicted conflict, and I've even talked to you about this before, and everything, Coach G, is like when you are wanting to not just satisfy the woman in your life, but some of the institutions in your life as well, whether that is family members, whether that is the church as well. Because I know I've been guilty. I know you've been guilty as well, and I've definitely seen women that have pulled you into those kind of self-inflicted conflicts as well, because they pull you into a church that's not even your philosophy and try to get you into that, and that's to me a form of self-inflicted trauma.
Well, yeah, I mean that was what I was just starting with when I was talking about the suicidal behavior on that point. That I was in a 30+ year marriage and it just had kind of run its course. She was going one way, I was going another way. And at the same time, the sadness, the things that I had experienced in my life, some of which, guys, I didn't even know until I went through therapy that it happened to me as a child. I didn't even know until those things popped out in therapy. So all these things are happening to me and popping out within me. And then my father passes away and the floodgates come open. So man, I just lost my thought. Mid thought.
We come back. We're talking about that self-inflicted trauma and how it can even be.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So it was the fear of the institution of church.
Right.
Being a minister at that time, second in command, you know, to my pastor, the fear of how I was going to be seen and looked at and talked about if I had just walked in and said, hey, I'm going to get a divorce. Me being a man of God, studying the Bible, my beliefs on suicide, you know, I knew in my beliefs, and this is my beliefs, no one, not talking about anybody else, but I understood where I would go had I committed suicide. Mm-hmm. Now, as much as I knew that, my fear of the institutions and being ostracized was greater. Yeah. And now when I reflect back on that, that is complete madness. Mm-hmm. That just shows you to the level and degree of how far my mind had slipped, how deep of a hole I was in. Crazy.
Yeah. And even to that level.
But it's powerful, as Mark, your point. It's the institutions and people's thoughts of us pull. I mean, that's a heavy weight to carry.
Oh yeah. And it's even sometimes the weight of family members, whether that's siblings, whether that's grandparents, whether that's other folks as well, because sometimes they can add to that trauma that we're talking about on this particular
Yeah.
stuff. That
That was
self-inflicted
all
trauma.
wrapped
Because
all
sometimes
together.
you want to
Right,
satisfy them as well, and
Mhm.
they're
right,
living their lives, but sometimes you want to satisfy them, and sometimes they are also playing that role of kind of I won't say instigating, but kind of well, in some ways they are instigating what's going on and how it's going on. Sometimes they are
right.
your
Controlling and
rescuers, and
manipulating.
sometimes they're not.
Right, right. What were you
Yeah,
saying on that, Gene?
controlling and manipulating. I was gonna say,
Hmm.
it's like and that's the crazy thing because I have a lot of friends who like do certain things with their lives because their family, their parents have done such a thing, and they want their children to do this thing, but this is the farthest thing for what they want to do. So they torture themselves, living a lifestyle to please other people and losing who they are the entire time.
Mhm.
That I mean, unfortunately, that's very common, especially like you got families in the military and things of that nature. You
Yeah.
know, or police force or whatever be the case. Like they are, or if you're a professor, then you want your child to be, upper class. I mean,
Right.
across society, these these they all control mechanisms. Just to keep a certain image, and that's the thing, a certain image going forward,
Right.
as
Trying
opposed
to.
to like how the soul is operating. They don't care about the individual. It's all about an image for society. And I mean, this is lower level stuff here, man.
Yeah.
This right
Live.
here on the third dimension for whatever is child's play. There's so
I mean,
much
yeah,
more.
living vicariously through our children.
Right,
That's
exactly.
so unfair.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm all about pushing the next generation to being better. And if, as we had talked about at the beginning of the show, if I've started a business that's legacy that I want to pass on to my children, but I still have to give them the autonomy to say, hey, let's keep this business in the family, Dad, but this is not what I want to do.
right, right, right,
I can use this as an asset to build from,
right,
but this isn't what I want to do. And we just don't do that.
We don't do that at all because if I can, and I know this will be a slight diversion, but I know we'll come back to the center of the topic and everything. But do we even give respect to Gen Z and everything? That's one of my complaints with what I'm seeing going on the whole protest with Palestine and Israel and everything. Because I don't think they are saying how they feel about it, and you got some people that are not wanting to hear their voices and not even wanting to listen to them, but they're just kind of like wanting to kind of like suppress it without hearing why they have the views that they have. So that's why I sometimes think we don't even give, to your point, Coach G, the ability to listen to them. And I'm not, yeah, they might be younger, but some of those young people might even be wiser than some of those old heads and all in
exactly.
that space.
I mean, what's the scripture about out of the mouth of children?
Out of the mouths of
Out of the
babes.
mouth of babes.
Yeah, right. So I mean, listen, every so in Buddhist culture, in Taoist culture, they talk about how everyone is your teacher.
Right.
Everyone is your teacher. Everyone that you come in contact with is a version of God. It's a reflection of yourself, and that's a teacher in each instance. So you listen to them because there's a perspective that you may not have thought about,
Right,
but they
right.
see clearly, and they have information that you don't have, and you can
Right.
learn. But when you get egotistical and think that I know everything, and I'm 50 something, or I'm 60 or 80 something, that doesn't mean anything. Like this is the age of information.
Right,
There's
right.
so much information out there now, and a person who is 30, 40 years younger than you, a child can teach you something simple.
Mhm.
A baby. We have to listen. The smart people will listen. You don't have to. You don't have to do
Right.
anything. But a
Right.
smart person would listen to their opinions and at least investigate before you discount.
Come on, come on.
It's the younger generation that brings new knowledge and new experiences to the world that's been a certain way for a certain time. They're the ones who, I mean, Nikola Tesla. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Like, they're still trying to catch up to his free energy stuff.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? They're still
They
trying to
slowly
catch up.
try to catch
Yeah,
up with him. Hey, Gene,
right.
I got a question for you because it's kind of what you were talking about, and I know I got to do better, and it's something that we all need to do. But isn't part of the self-inflicted pain, since we're talking about self-inflicted trauma, also being afraid to be the best version of ourselves? Because the best version of yourselves is going to be mental, it's going to be physical, it's going to be emotional, and it's going to be spiritual. And I do know that a lot of times, we'll wake up in the morning, we'll get caught up in our day-to-day work, and if we're not in a relationship, we'll be feeling regretful about that. So you won't go to the gym, or you won't go out for that walk that I was talking about, and you will go out and eat that fast food and all along those lines. So that is a form of self-inflicted trauma as well. I would think also that you are trying to find a substitute for what you feel you have lost, whether that is through food or whether that is through
Right.
non-exercise or whether that's through bad relationships or whatever. But I just wanted your take on that, because I do think that a lot of times we are afraid to make ourselves better because we're afraid of uh, disappointing or not doing it effectively and all in that space. But you are the exercise and the person that's in that health journey. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts around that, because I do
Yeah,
know that that's a form of self-inflicted trauma too. Is
Yeah.
that it doesn't take
absolutely.
anything to do a good exercise. I mean, how many people? I'm just going to be blunt and everything, and this is me being Mark being blunt, but and this is kind of being a little bit gross. But how many of us don't have to coach yours because it's not a sexual one and everything?
I
But
thought we
doing
was going to X. I thought we was going to X.
no, we're not going to X on this one. We're going to a different kind of discussing. But how many people during the pandemic, because we were all going through trauma, we're sitting there neglecting our bodies? You know, and I know that a number of people were not even bothering trying to go into the shower. And we all need a shower at least one or two a day and everything. But a lot of people were like, I don't know what the heck's going on in the world. I will deal with that later. And a lot of people were being basically nasty. Let's just be honest
That's
about it.
yeah. I was gonna say that's just
Yeah.
nasty.
But that's what a lot of people were doing during the
Right.
pandemic. And that's a form, and I think that also is a form of self-inflicted trauma. Because how many of your friends, including some of those that you're talking about, that were thinking about that suicidal variation and everything, were also not doing the basic needs of taking care
Right.
of themselves, whether that's a haircut or whether that's taking the basic shower or whether that's just doing the basic necessities of life.
Yeah.
Walking around humming.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. But yeah.
Uh-oh. Look at the queen has showed up.
Yeah. And she
Y'all
dropped
see that?
bombs. Every time
Yeah.
she comes in, she dropped bombs.
Yeah. See, look at the queen and popped in the house. Talking about her. Her ears must have been burning.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, for sure. I mean, so the deal is we as a species, we tend to gravitate towards that which is easier.
Mhm.
To change a habit takes consistent work.
Right.
And people don't want to do that consistent work. You know, they want to sit on the couch and take a pill. People ask me all the time, you know, you're 40, you're over 40 and you're still in excellent shape. How'd you get there? I
Right.
work at it every day.
Right.
I'm not perfect, but I do something every day towards that end goal, which is to stay healthy as long as I'm here on this earth. So, like, it's the same thing you can do. Exercise. Find something that you enjoy at first. Find something that challenges you. Same thing with everything in life. You have to realize who you are first, and then from there, exactly consistency.
Listen to Evie,
You
man.
have to be
She
consistent.
just continuously
Right.
dropping nuggets.
Yeah, in order to change anything, you have to be consistent about it. Because I mean, again, think about it. You've done whatever it is. Like I tell people, as it pertains to their weight loss journey, you know, you didn't gain this weight overnight, so you're not gonna lose it overnight.
Right. Come on, brother.
So just create a plan, follow the plan, adjust the plan as you need to, but keep the goals the same or increase, you know, whatever. But ultimately, you have to be consistent. You have to do it over and over again to create a new habit. It takes, what is it, 3 weeks to create a new
Right.
neural
21,
synapse
21
connection in your
days.
brain. 21. Okay.
21 days. Remember,
Yeah.
that's how I started the show
Right.
with talking about my 3 weeks.
Right.
This process for 3 weeks. So
Right. To create a whole neural synapse connection in your brain, it takes 21 days. That's 3 weeks exactly. So, you know, be consistent. And also, and that's why visualization and things like that are great. Because you see your goal over and over again, and you just do little steps to get there. Even if it's a small step every day, you know, to get to that particular point. Over time, you'll look back and be like, wow, I'm 365 days beyond
In
that.
this.
Wow. You know, a whole change. So,
well, I'm just to your point. I want to throw in number one is give yourself grace. What's the queen saying now? Right. Man, she's
Right.
so good.
right.
She's so good.
Right.
But I want to say, give yourself grace, the same grace that we give other people. So for the first time, I gave myself grace. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't criticize myself as I normally would have. I looked in the mirror and obviously saw something I didn't like or didn't want. But I'm like, okay, but now that's my motivation to get to the end game. And every day that I look at myself, I don't look at myself with disdain. I look at myself as tomorrow's another opportunity to shave off some of this and get to a better space. And then my next thought was feeding my soul. I'm back to doing things that feed my soul and motivate me to move forward, that feed my mind, my heart, my mind, body, soul, spirit. Doing things like that. I just added positive structure to my life that, like you talked about, that consistency. So
Coach G, but to that point of the positive structure and everything along those lines, I was just thinking, how many times do we know? Because I know this part of the conversation that those that have been through the various addiction programs talk about as well. But how often do we replace one, since we're talking about self-inflicted trauma, one trauma with another? How many people do we know
Well,
that maybe didn't go through
addiction,
the whole like suicidal ideation kind of concept, but how many people do you know that went through trouble and then decided to become workaholics? That to me is just replacing one trauma for another, because you just
right,
left one trauma and now you're just kind of like making yourself an over workaholic. So you're kind of like waking up with this notion of, the relationship isn't working, so I'm going to dedicate 200% to work and everything, when you actually have to have a balance in life. I know that on a lot of shows that I do, not just with us, but others, I talk about that spiritual background, that physical, mental, and emotional, because I think you have to be in tune on all four levels and
yes,
everything. But I just
right.
wanted,
Four
but I see a lot
pillars.
of
no,
people that are walking zombies because they're too busy in one element or another.
right.
Right, right,
That's
right,
like for me, being a coach, um, a shooter goes through a slump,
Hmm.
right? And you don't tell the shooter to stop shooting.
Right.
If anything, you tell the shooter to shoot more, believe in
Hmm.
yourself and shoot more. But what's different is you remind the shooter to go back to the fundamentals.
Right.
Go back to the little boy that was in the driveway that
right,
perfected his shot. So
Hmm.
all those little things that you did, those little steps, and we talked about consistency. There's probably a little inconsistent tweak there that you can make that now will
right,
put you back on track to be the great
right,
shooter that you once were.
right,
So I've applied that same simple thing, which is why I love sports,
Hmm.
life lessons that can be taught in sports.
right.
So this last 30 days or so, that's what I've done. I got to give shout out to my sister again, because she's been very instrumental in this journey for me, and talking me through things and giving me insight on things. But I have gone back to the fundamentals, and those it's not just physical. I have to deal with, what am I eating, what am I listening to, what am I reading, um, am I doing self-care, am I resting, am I doing my physical activities, am I doing affirmations, am I praying, am I reading my word? So now I've come full circle to address all areas of my being, mental, mind, body, soul, to enhance every area, not just one.
I
So
agree.
it's self-sustaining when you do it that way.
No,
If we
totally.
want to talk about consistency, you got to do things that are self-sustaining.
Right.
Hey, Gene, there's a new self-inflicted toy, which is this one right here. Because you can
Oh,
go on the app and you can see all kinds of different kind of things that you can toy with to kind of like find your inner peace. I've seen it a number of times. People have AI relationships and a number of other things that are on here. So I'm just saying that this is another one of those kind of like things that can create problems as well. Because I
Oh
know a
yeah.
number of our young people are all on those devices, and I can tell
Right.
you for a fact because I see them advertised constantly that there are AI companions. I'm going like, don't you want a real companion? But an AI companion might be fun and might help you for a minute, but I would think you would want the real thing.
Well, I just have to say, gentlemen, that before we go further, this is a PSA of Unbreakable Souls. And I just must say, while the show is on, we recommend you highly to put this thing down. Put it down. I'm asking you now, put it down. Back away, step away, put it down. Put there, right, put it down.
Good
There we
job.
go.
Good job. Good
This
job,
is being
guys.
a PSA of Unbreakable Souls.
Good job.
Now back to our regular recorded programming.
All right, guys, wind it up. All right, let's go.
So, are you trying to say that you don't need to have that relationship with Beth on AI doing the Unbreakable Souls show?
No.
That was hilarious. Oh man. So yeah, I mean, definitely, like, you know, social media and things of that nature create a virtual reality where we see people post, you know, these beautiful pictures and these experiences and these, you know, magnificent, you know, posts of great things. And, you know, who's the nose behind? We try to live up to that. We try to, you know, allow other people to create standards for us, as opposed to creating our own. That's why I like with this new phone. Thankfully, I mean not thankfully, because I have a lot of information on other phone that I can't get to now. But still, with this phone, I'm not going to get on any social media.
You see how attached you are to that phone, brother? I saw that. I felt
did.
that emotion through the
You
screen.
felt it?
I felt the emotion. You probably buried the old phone, didn't you?
No, it's still over there.
Oh Lord,
It's still not charging.
Go dig a hole in the
charging,
backyard, bruh. Dig a hole in the backyard and put it in there. Come on now, let's have a ceremony. Let's bring it on Unbreakable Souls, and we just film you. Yeah, we need to sing a song.
He's more attached to the phone than he was to that dog of his. So we don't understand.
Right. I'm gonna let her chew on it for a minute. No, but no, seriously, social media creates as connecting as it is from a virtual standpoint. It also creates great barriers between people because we associate reality with what we see on social media as opposed to what we encounter in front of people at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm guilty of this. I will say this right now. A lot of times, I'd rather text the person and call them because I don't like to talk on the phone. But at least I know it.
Yeah,
You know?
I'd rather be in person, but yeah.
Right. No, see, exactly. Like, the phone for me, it just, I don't know, it's just boring. But if we're in person, I love in-person interaction. Like, I do a Zoom call faster than I do a phone call. I seeing your face and hearing your voice at the same time, that's personal to me. But just being like, yeah, okay. Then you hear breathing on the other side.
Well, like I said, it does have its purposes and everything. Because when I was
did y'all see that bomb the Queen just dropped?
I saw that bomb, but connecting. Yeah,
connecting to the phone tower more than the true power.
No, that's very true. Now I will say that I gotta change.
Write this stuff down.
Yeah, they're all on the page, so they're all being written down. They're all following, and hopefully people are writing them down regularly. Because definitely, Evie is dropping all kinds of bombs and all along.
Just nugget after nugget, man.
She's dropping nugget after nugget and everything. Now we'll give the fits to the text on one the direction because the band that was playing, one of the young ladies was getting married, so I was glad there was that announcement. So Mocha will be getting married in September, and I think this is her third time and hopefully the final time. Matter of fact, I know it is because she said if this dude don't work out, she's done. She's done with trying anymore because she's like third time hopefully is the charm. But one of the other musicians did get a text, and I did see the text, and the text was basically a text that was suggestive, basically telling him that he needed to get done with whatever he was doing musically because she had a nice little surprise planned for him at home. So I know you've got those texts as we all have. So that flow of the text can work really good. Yeah, I went there.
Mark then moved us to X,
Why?
everybody. Mark has moved us to X already. We were, what are we, about 10, 12 minutes away?
X.
I'm just saying it can be a positive.
I think it's time for another PSA. Mark, you gotta give me a note. You gotta give me a hint, man, so I can put the PSA out there before you speak on that.
A little disclaimer or something, Mark. I mean,
it's coming. It's coming. Don't we have some beeping music? Or something. It's coming. It's coming.
But seriously, though, isn't that a form of self-inflicted pain? I mean, that was a positive relationship because that was actually his lady that was sending it to him, basically saying, "Come on home." But we do know for a fact, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, that sometimes one of the self-inflicted pains that we do is we try to get involved in relationships for the physical and not because of anything else, because you're trying to numb the pain and everything. So that's really where I was going with that. That was a more positive light where I was going, and I won't say it was friend of my friend and all along those lines. But there is this notion of how we will try to recover and get into these relationships, and sometimes the relationships are only another form of self-inflicted pain because you're not even trying to be totally involved in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect segue, brother. Perfect segue, because the next point is risky behaviors.
Oh,
Engaging in risky behaviors such as extreme sports, reckless driving, or unsafe sexual practices can also be examples of self-inflicted trauma.
right.
These behaviors may stem from a desire for thrill-seeking or a lack of concern for personal safety, or also, I would say, to fill a void.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
You know what? Because I feel like we never take time to deal with the root cause. We just, as I think Evie had just said that in one of her posts in here, we move from one relationship to another. You know, man breaks up with this woman and he's on top of another woman, and women are under the, sorry, Mark, I didn't jump into the X arena. I had to retract it. I had to retract it, bring it back to PG-13.
Go for it. We're there already. Let's go.
But no, man, we never deal with the root cause of the situation. And I feel like that's why I've had so much success over these last couple of weeks is I've really taken time to reflect and go back into the root cause of these issues so that I am not self-inflicting myself. You know, let's self-inflicted trauma. We are doing this to ourselves.
Did you see Evie's comment?
What'd she say?
That's how touch becomes numbing if used for usage in cell shrinkage and everything. So she just dropped another bomb and everything. And yes, there are a lot of folks that do use it in terms of a usage and a numbing activity and everything. So yeah, she just dropped another bomb. That's why I had to bring that up.
The queen. So also, I want to throw this in here. Were you about to go, Gene?
No, you go ahead and finish your point, bro.
No, I was going to jump into number 4 real quick because I know we're short on our time. But I think a lot of what we've talked about today, you know, fell under 3 and 4, risky behavior, and then now also self-harm. Self-harm is some men resort to self-harm as a way to cope with emotional, mental, physical distress. I mean, these things can involve cutting, men cut, burning, men burn themselves, or other destructive forms of self-inflicted physical harm. Self-harm is often a sign of underlying mental health issues and should be taken seriously. How many times that we see these things in men? Gene, you're in that space, you're working out with the brother, and you look over at him and you see his arms are loaded with marks because he's been in the closet cutting himself or burning himself. But we as men, we don't say anything. That's a sign, warning sign that we need to reach out to that brother and have a conversation. What do you guys think about that?
But not only that, but as I've said to both you and Gene, I am one of those few breeds that is a non-driver getting around by mass transit, but I do have friends that are in that car space. And how often do we know that people that are in those troublesome relationships or in those breakups or that self-inflicted trauma that decide to get the fast car, nothing wrong with the fast car and everything, but they also decide to speed on that fast car and all along those lines, because it's one thing to have a fast car, it's another thing to decide you want to drive it 150 miles an hour down Main Street highways and everything along those lines. But you do see sometimes people are over these speed demons, and I'm not saying that you can't have a lead foot, because I know family members of mine that got lead feet and everything, but at the same time, I do wonder if sometimes the emotions aren't the reason that you are pushing yourself. Because one thing I was going to ask is that I don't know that, because I kind of alluded to it before, I don't know that all, how can I put it this bluntly? I don't know that all suicide attempts are as easy to recognize as others. Because like I said, if you got a gun and you put a gun to a person's head or you point it to your head, you pretty much know that you're trying to take yourself out and everything. But I think that some people do, like you just said, risky behavior with the possibility that it may lead to their destruction without necessarily addressing what is causing the risky behavior in the first place.
Can I throw something into that?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
To your
please do.
point, and I wonder, I'm interested to see if you guys saw this. So, Mark, your point earlier is how many men in that scenario this man has bought because it was an emotional buy. He bought this fancy car, sports car, as an emotional buy because that's the way he was processing. But then the next guy looks at that and is jealous, pushes him into a depression because he doesn't have that fancy car, doesn't have the means to get that fancy car. But not even, this is the point I'm trying to make, but not even realizing that as that man is driving down the highway in that fancy car, some cases, all that man is looking for is the next median that he can wrap himself
Exactly.
that car in.
Exactly.
So I'm sitting here watching that car go by, being jealous of that man.
Right.
That man is looking for an accident to happen that would take his life.
Right.
We don't know people's stories. We don't know what people are going through.
And that's kind of what I was alluding to, because there's some, it even comes back to your church point, is that I don't know that every accident is actually an accident, because that's what I'm saying, is that if a person is pointing a gun and he's shooting himself, you know that person was trying to take himself out, whereas a person is constantly speeding, maybe they are looking for that median, like you said, and everything. But as far as the crash and the crime report is going to be concerned, it was just an accident that happened, and that might have been an intentional accident.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I know people who get angry and drive very fast, and some people get intoxicated and drive extremely fast for that very purpose. It's like at that point they don't care anymore.
Right.
You know, they're angry about something. They're just driving as fast as they can, skipping down, swerving lanes, and people die. Or kill other people.
It's crazy.
Definitely a form of self-trauma.
Yeah, because I've even seen it with young people. I think I alluded to y'all before that there are people that do the like the bicycles and those kind of like motorcycles, but you'll see them weaving in and out of traffic, going very fast, doing the pop-up wheelies and all along those lines.
Right.
But you know good and well that they have to. Part of that is the thrill, because you got thrill seekers as well. But part of the thrill seeking, that's a form of addiction, but it's also a dangerous form of addiction because it can also lead to your death, whether you're intentionally doing that or not. And the same with the skateboarders. You see people doing all kinds of crazy stunts on skateboards and everything that could lead to their death, but whether they are thinking it will or not.
Right. Hey, Mark, can you throw up Evie's comment, the men's self-service or men's self-silence comment? Because that's really speaking into our last point. She sums it up well, that men don't have really a safe place. We had talked about earlier to land and share their hurt. So that's, to me, is the foundation. It's 0.5 of our points today, but it's really the foundational point, because emotional suppression, men may internalize their emotions and suppress their feelings, leading to emotional trauma. I mean, this can result in long-term psychological distress and may contribute to the development of mental health disorders, which we know are the 4 points above that one. Right. It all starts with emotional suppression.
Right.
And thank you, Queen, for so eloquently, from a woman's perspective, realizing that men don't have that safe space to land. They don't have that place where they can go to have safe tears. Remember how she talked about safe tears?
Right, exactly, right. And not only mental health disorders. I mean, when you suppress emotion, that's energy that you hold into your body, so it creates.
I was hoping you said that.
It creates physical disorders and things of that nature. Cancer is caused oftentimes by high levels of stress and trauma pressed down over years and years.
Right.
And added to it, and the body begins to attack itself. So, the same trauma that we, as above, so below, is an edict. Anything that happens in the physical body, I mean, anything that starts with our emotion, which is the mind, is everything. The mind creates the world around us. If it starts there, then it's going to download into your body as well, and your spiritual aspect of your life as well. So, everything is interconnected.
Right.
Anything that you do, anything you push down and don't allow to see the light of your consciousness will cause further darkness throughout the body.
Hey, Coach, I got a question for you, because I am fairly close to both of my parents, both my dad and my mom, and then we can go a few minutes over and everything. But I'm fairly close to both of my parents. But I do know for a fact, and I just love to know your thoughts about it because you mentioned the own closest you had to your dad before he died and everything. But I think a lot of times, and this is one of those self-inflicted traumas as well, we are. Even though that is the man of our lives, we're oftentimes afraid to bring these kind of issues to them because we're afraid of what their reaction will be, afraid that they won't have the answer or afraid that they will give us an answer that we might not even want to hear because sometimes we know that they are wiser than we are and we don't always want to hear the answer that they will give us. But I know my uncle, when he was living, he had some very solid points. Well, both uncles that were living at that, well, actually, I lost all three of my uncles now that I think about it, but the two that I talked to on a pretty regular basis, and definitely my dad who's still living, I know that I probably could go to him more than I actually do, but I do think that even at this age, sometimes you are afraid to bring that connection, even among the male bond and everything. So I just want to wondering your thoughts around that, because I sometimes think that we probably have the sources, the resources in our family, but we don't always go to them.
Well, but good point. My thought though, my first thought on that is it a safe place to land? We've been
Right.
talking about that. So yes, I think men have resources
Mhm.
around them of people that they can go to, but is that going to be a safe place for them to land? Because that's for me, that's first and foremost. I mean, the church, I had other pastors, ministers, other people I could go to share some of the pain things I was going through, but was that a safe place for me to land? Would I be judged? Would I be controlled and manipulated? You need to be doing this. I'm the older person, so you need to do this, you need to do that, and not teaching me, taking my experience and using that as an opportunity to teach me something, and it just being told to me and dictated to me. So yes, men have resources, I believe, but are they safe resources for them
Right.
to go to?
And even if
So
they're safe, I guess that's the flip side of where I was going is that sometimes we are so quick to make the assumptions before we've even made the ask and everything. Because
no,
sometimes you're
that's a
already
good point.
assuming that
That's
the
a good
person
point.
is going to give you
Right.
an answer that you may not be ready for. And they, sometimes they will even be very blunt and tell you what you're doing
Mhm.
wrong. And sometimes you don't want to deal with that as well. So yes, there might be safe places that you refuse to go to because you are afraid of
Good
them
point.
being blunt and giving
Good
you the
point.
answer.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in that, I think because one situation turns us off, then we turn all the rest of them off. So to your point there, Mark, that because maybe I went to my father and that wasn't a safe place, then I make the assumption that every other older man that I go to is going to be similar like that. And that's not always the case.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a fair assumption for sure.
Yeah. Definitely not a fair assumption. And sometimes those mentors can be mentors outside of the area. I know that
Hmm.
there's
Yep.
a guy here in Durham named Mr. Shu that was now he does upholstery, but he was very much a mentor to many folks, and it's not just his sons, because he had multiple sons and everything, but a mentor to kind of like the community at large. And it's still a mentor, even though I think he's in his 80s or 90s now and everything. So sometimes those people are out there that might be folks that you can address, because I'm sure there are people like that even in your own communities, being
Hmm.
Tennessee respectively and where you are in Kansas. But sometimes you're afraid to even reach out to those folks, even though they might even welcome you bringing your concerns to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's my personal
True.
experience has been reaching out to outside people. So,
Yeah.
yeah. What were you saying, Gene? I'm sorry.
No, no, I was just agreeing with what you were saying.
Okay. Well, wrap us up, man. I mean, what's Unbreakable Souls, episode 13,
13.
self-inflicted trauma. So what's your final thoughts on all this? This was really good discussion. So
Right.
suicidal behavior, substance abuse, risky behavior, self-harm, emotional suppression. Man, we hit on some really good points today.
Right. Yeah. So the first thing I would say is like, man, the first person you have to love is the person you see in the mirror every day. If you don't love that person, then there's no way that you can give anyone else love. So you have to feed yourself the love that you see from the world around you, because we are the
Mm,
creators. We are the creators of our own reality. So
mm,
feed yourself the love that you desire and deserve, and then you attract that to you.
mm-hmm.
And when you love yourself, when you recognize that you have suicidal ideations, or you're depressed and you start to use substances abusively, or start to exhibit risky behaviors or self-harm, then go find a community, a support group or something that will help you process your emotions. Therapists, I say this all the time, therapists are great. We need
The right one.
people. As a people, get yourself a therapist, someone that is unbiased and is willing to tell you truths that you don't even want to hear.
Yeah.
At times there are truths that you don't want to hear. They may be ugly, but them ugly truths will help you grow the most beautiful aspects and flowers within you. So, embrace it. Even if it comes in I try to, even in situations where people say jacked up stuff, if there's any amount of truth in it, I try to find that truth and trash the rest of it. Find that nugget. There's something in there that you may be able to pick up. Everyone is your lesson. Everyone is your teacher. Every situation is a lesson. So.
Right. That's so good. That's so good. Mirror work, I would add to that. Evie was texting me, and I would definitely say, my experience with her doing mirror work, that's powerful in helping you overcome a lot of this stuff. So.
Before we get stand up, because I think that's what we'll go out with, if that's all right with Gene and everything, since we don't have a theme song for this particular show except for stand up. So I think we'll go out with stand up. But Coach G, if I'm hearing you correctly and everything, everybody should stand up and lay down before they play stand up and everything, and they should hug themselves, right? So everybody should hug. Because we've been talking about so everybody should hug themselves right now.
I love you, Gary. Man, I love you, man. You the bomb diggity, bro.
You're the bomb. You're the bomb.
No, man, we're being silly, but real talk, that's so much power in that, man.
Yeah, it is.
Real talk is so much power in that, man. I'm adding that to my thing to do to myself every day.
Yeah, definitely.
Self-love is the way to heal self-inflicted trauma, babes.
Yeah. Good ending thought, man. That's powerful, bro.
No problem. So we'll go out with stand up, and like I said, hopefully everybody that's watching, Evie included, is over there hugging themselves right about now. So we got.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Evie, for showing up.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. Thank you, Evie.
Appreciate y'all. So we'll go out with stand up.
The police took another life. Gunshots rang out, even though he had his hands held high. Yo, I'm sick and tired to walk my brother's short lines. Need to come together, set a plan, and then mobilize. Oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about all the hell that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up y'all, we can do this, you and me. Monsanto monopolized the whole grocery line. So we all gon' have 12 toes, 3 thumbs, 3 eyes. If we keep being sheep, these wolves are gon' rob us blind. Let's occupy our mind space, cause the revolution won't be televised. Oh, what are we gon' do? What are we gon' do? What are we gon' do about all the hell that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Oh, mercy me. The government should nurture all that we need. let's make some history. Stand up, rise up, you know you ain't gotta follow. You can lead. Stand up, y'all. We can do this, you and me. Stand up, shout out into the walls of Babylon undefeated. Stand up, come on, y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up, you know you ain't gotta follow.